Welcome to Cooking from the Cave, and today I'm going to show you how to make fried calamari with a quick and easy marinara sauce. We love this appetizer. I can even get my 10-year-old son to eat it. I don't tell him what it is. He just loves it because it's fried. Let's start with the marinara sauce because even though it's quick and easy, the longer we let it cook, the tighter it's going to get and the more flavor that's going to come out of it. There's just a few ingredients that go into this. Back on the back burner of my stove here, I have a pan. It's on low heat. I'm going to want to add 1 tablespoon of olive oil. I'm going to add a half diced red onion. And then I'm going to add 2 or 3 cloves of garlic. Now I'm going to crush these up so that they're really nice and fine. You could use a knife, or using just a garlic press is easy as well. And the more garlic you put in here, and because we're not going to cook it for a long period of time, the stronger it'll come out. So if you don't really like a lot of garlic, just maybe cut it down to 1 clove. But for us, we love having that garlic flavor in there, so we're going to put 3 in there. The next thing is a dried oregano and dried basil. I'm going to put 1 tablespoon of that. Red pepper flakes, we're going to put 1 tablespoon of red pepper flakes, and I'm going to put 3 tablespoons of tomato paste, as well as 12 ounces of pureed tomatoes. You could use diced tomatoes. I'm not going to put this sauce into a blender or puree it up or chop it up any further than it is right now. So this sauce will be a little bit chunkier, but because we're using the dried ingredients, we want to let this cook for as long as we possibly can. Ideally, start to finish, this recipe will be about 20 minutes. Alright, so we'll let that go over a low heat. If you see a bubble every now and then, that's perfect. Let's talk about the calamari. Calamari can come in 2 ways. One, it can be fresh, or it can be frozen. Fresh, you will have the tube as well as the tentacles, and they are typically found combined. These were previously frozen. I picked these up at Whole Foods, so I got to opt out. You know, the seafood monger asked me what did I want. I said I wanted a 50-50 percentage between tentacles and tubes. So the tentacles are already separated. The tubes are the next thing we have to talk about. You want to make sure that the bill, which is a very thin membrane that is inside the actual calamari, is removed, because if you bite down on it, it's going to be crunchy like you're biting into a bone, and you don't want that. So if you don't feel anything hard in here and you're just going to rub your fingers around in the tube, then you're good to go. Let's talk about slicing the calamari. We don't have to do anything with the tentacles. Tentacles can go just right into our bowl, but the tubes, you want to decide what's the easiest way to cut this. Now, I like to cut them into rounds, and I would roughly say about maybe 3/4 to 1 inch of a round would be ideal. You know you've done it correct when the round is still intact and you have your tube. And now we can start our next step for this recipe. The breading. The breading is going to be 3 stages like some of the other recipes we've done in the past. We're going to use our other tablespoon of dried herbs. Again, that's the oregano and the basil. I'm going to add a tablespoon of salt. And cracked pepper to this. Now the reason for this, we're going to salt this when it's all done, but this seasons our calamari on the inside. We're then going to go through the rest of the breading process, but this will make sense to you. So we're going to first pre-season it with this flour mixture. It gets coated with the egg, and whenever you're doing this, again, keep one hand dry, one hand wet. So this will be my dry hand, and because we're working with some unique shaped objects here, tubes, make sure the flour gets all the way in there as well. So spend time on this. We're then going to drop it into our egg mixture. Again, I want to make sure that egg gets into the middle of it as well. And then we're going to finish it off with our panko. Using my dry hand, I want to make sure that that panko or the breadcrumbs get all the way into that tube. This will give us a nice fry. Our tube won't close up in the fryer by accident because of the breadcrumbs in there. And you may be asking yourself, what is panko? Panko is a Japanese style breadcrumbs, a little bit coarser and perfect for deep frying fish or chicken. Alright, at this point we'll set this aside and we'll go ahead and do the rest. With the tentacles are going to be also very much like the tubes. We want to make sure we get breading in between each of the tentacles. So using my dry hand, I'm really going to make sure each one is coated nicely. Drop it into our egg mixture. Again, make sure that's nice and evenly coated. And following it up again with the panko, making sure it's nice and coated. Now, off to my right here, I have my wok going and I have about 3 inches of hot oil. My oil is preset at 350 degrees. Don't let it get above 375, and please only use canola oil or peanut oil if there are no allergies in your family. We're going to take our tentacles as well as our tubes and we're going to drop them in the oil, and we're going to slowly drop them in. So I'm going to let the tentacles start to fry a little bit. If I see bubbling, that's great. We can go ahead and drop tentacles the rest. Same with the tubes. Want to make sure that we put the tubes in slowly as well. Again, we've coated the inside of the tube so it doesn't fry together and you just get basically a very thin piece of fried squid in there. Alright, so I've started frying a few more of these. I got a few done. And just note that because the temperature of your oil can vary from 350 to 375, this is going to take about 30 seconds to a minute of frying. Now the biggest complaint about calamari, it tastes like a rubber band. Well, the way to get around that is, one, use fresh or frozen young calamari. It can't be older. You want to look for some tubes that are roughly about 6 to 10 inches in length. Anything larger, we got to go through a whole nother tenderizing process to get it so it works for this recipe. The other thing is, what goes great with calamari? We were making our marinara sauce over here, garlic bread. Get yourself a nice couple slices of garlic bread, throw it in the oven. I'm going to get that going. And while I'm doing that, I'm going to finish up frying the rest of my calamari here. Again, slowly drop it in. Keep an eye on it in the oil. You may have to rotate it or spin it a little bit. I'm using a regular fish spatula. You can use tongs. And just watch it. Again, you're about 30 seconds to a minute for each piece of squid that you're putting in here. Alright, the last of our calamari is done. Now, you may ask, alright, how much calamari are we actually using? This is just 1 pound of calamari. This will feed 3-4 people easily. Maybe add a side to this dish. If you work fast enough, these will still be hot. And while they're still hot, anything that comes out of the fryer, we're going to have to sprinkle a little salt on it. Once it cools down, there's no point in doing that. You better just season up your sauce. So if you can keep them warm, maybe have your oven set at 350, you make a batch, you put that in the oven, it holds them there. Sprinkle them with salt when you're all done, right before you're ready to serve it. Now, let's get it ready to serve. We got a plate over here with some of our garlic bread, some watercress, which I got, again, this is from Whole Foods, real fresh, nice stuff, adds a little color to the plate. And then our marinara sauce over here. I haven't tasted our marinara sauce, and if there's one thing I can stress with, you know, as a home chef, home cook, make sure you taste everything before you bring it out to the table. Make sure it has enough flavor, it's got good depth to it. If you have to add just a little bit of something, I'm just going to add a touch of salt. We're going to move this just into this big white bowl here. And it's thickened up nicely. It definitely has a lot of good texture to it. There's still the diced tomatoes in here. The onions are there. Everything really looks nice. I'm just going to grab a nice combination of the tentacles and the tubes. And anything obviously that drops on the floor becomes our dogs. But we'll see how they like calamari. Finish it off with a little garnish, again, of that watercress. We'll even put a little bit in the marinara. for color. But there you go. A quick, easy 20-minute, fantastic meal. Some sliced lemons, the fried calamari, and our marinara sauce, accompanied by some garlic bread. Thank you again for watching Cooking from the Cave. I'm Chef Pete Truzak, and I'll see you real soon.